Love this city, and it's such an interesting place because it was one of the largest cities in America, at the turn of the last century. And so w- you add to that the fact that this was such a huge city for music. I mean, not just with Chuck Berry and rock and roll, but even stuff that's happening with modern music. And I'm sure a lot of them aren't really making it when they live in St. Louis, but they're from here, and there's just so much history here. And to kind of connect the dots, as you were saying, like I was in college and I was going to a lot of shows, like almost every day of the week. I wanted to go see live music, even if I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's so
I would
cool.
go check something out. And it quickly dawned on me that like there are people that should know about each other that just don't. And as small as the music community might seem, there's still really big connections that I think just needed to be made. And then I would go to the shows, and if they were local shows, St. Louis based artists, I would see other bands on the bill at the show. I would see friends of the band. I would see people they're dating at the shows, and I was like, where is the buy-in from St. Louis? Why
Yeah.
isn't St. Louis showing up for these amazing shows? And so I wanted to just start a radio station where people could just literally press play. I'm like, how do we make it as easy as possible to
Hmm.
show people what's happening in their own backyard?
So feel me when I bring it, sing it loud. I'm from the loot and I'm proud. Run a mile for the cause. I'm right.
Hi, guys. It's your girl, Nakama, your favorite Jew from the Lou. Welcome back to my podcast. And today I am so excited to have Nick, who I met at my coffee shop barista job. But I'm going to have him say his full name because it's beautiful, but I unfortunately will butcher it.
Yeah, technically it's Nicolas Avel Garcia. It's very Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
so the middle name trips people up, especially Americans that are like Avel or Avel.
That's what I just
Um,
did.
and and to be honest, I say it wrong. I
Okay.
say Avel, like Adele, but it's actually Avel if you want to say it correctly. It means breathe in Spanish. It's also a Greek name,
Oh,
which
cool.
translates to like hazel. But Avel, that's what I say, Nick Avel.
Yeah. It's helpful that you have a first name that's like super chill.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Nicholas, you can like shorten to Nick and
yeah.
everybody could pronounce it.
Hmm.
And it's actually ironic because in the Jewish Orthodox world, a lot of us have like Hebrew names. And so when we enter the real world and not our little Jewish bubble, a lot of us will change our names and come up with English names. So like a lot of people were like saying like to me like, "Oh, you should change your name to Nikki."
Mm.
And I was like, I don't really feel like I'm a Nikki. I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I thought about it, and then my first job was a corporate job, and like it was one of those jobs where like you could pick up your desk phone and like say someone's name and it would connect you to
yep,
whoever you
yep,
needed.
yep.
I don't know who set mine up, but like whatever it was, nobody was able to say the pronunciation in a way that they could get a hold of me. And I remember at that moment being like, maybe I should change it. And this was my first manager out of college, and I was very young. I was 20 years old because I finished college early. And this was like a pivotal moment where based on how she responded, it could have changed the trajectory of me in a lot of things. And she said, "No, it's your name, it's your heritage, own it, and everyone else will learn,"
Yeah,
which was so cool.
I love that, and I love that when I learned your name, you made it a point for me to say it correctly.
I did.
Nahama.
That's a compliment though, because like
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like sometimes I'll hear the worst pronunciations. They'll be like, "Did I get it?" I'm like, "Perfect. You totally got it." It
Yeah,
just depends how much energy I have.
yeah.
But like if it actually matters to me and I have the time, I'll be like, "No, this is how you say
Say
my
it
name."
correctly if you're going to be on my show. Thank
Literally, literally.
you.
I'm like, "You're not just another passing face."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
learn my name.
yeah. I
Yeah.
get it. It suits you. I think it does suit you more than Nikki. Only
Yeah.
my best friends call me Nikki, so only
Yep. You're like, that is only for a few. Yeah.
very few. Yeah,
Yeah, I totally hear that.
yeah,
And I just love being a barista because I get to meet so many different people,
yeah.
people who I would never have connected with probably ever otherwise. And what intrigued me so much about you, first and foremost, was like you have a swagger and a style that's very unique
I
Because
love that.
a lot of the people, especially like where my coffee shop is that I work at downtown, is very corporate. There's a lot of lawyers, a lot of architects,
But God
engineers.
bless you. We need a coffee shop downtown.
Yeah. And there's a lot of suits, right? And so like it's not every day that you see someone who's just like being themselves. So when I first met you, I assumed marketing,
You were right.
which wasn't far off.
On the money, creative yet about it, So yeah, when I met you, I was director of marketing for Jazz St. Louis.
Hmm.
Resigned in October, but it was a time, and really believed in the mission of the place. And it's a great organization that helps a lot of kids learn the fundamentals of jazz and theory,
It's so cool.
and get to play with each other and learn that dialogue and that language of this great American music. So
It's soul music.
yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like I've always gravitated towards jazz and like big band swing and like
Yeah.
oldies, but I never had any proper education or training. So it's so interesting that like, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, every type of music, you can break it down and study it for the rest of your life and still barely scratch the surface.
100%. I play
Yeah.
guitar, and there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
With either how to play it or how to record it or the different sounds, the history of the instrument. I mean, hearing like vibrations from strings it's a very old situation, and it's so therapeutic. I think I was telling you about that. Sometimes I'll just play without the idea of practicing or getting better at it, just to just feel it, and it's a very calming exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, it's interesting because they say if you love what you do, then you'll never feel like you're working a day in your life.
Yeah.
Right. But I think there's also the other end of the spectrum where some people are like, but I don't want what I love to feel like a job. Right. Because the reality is whatever rose colored glasses you have about whatever dream, it takes a lot of hard work to do everything. Yeah, literally. I'm so surprised you're not even wearing your glasses right now.
I could.
If you want to, whatever we do have some bright lights shining on you. So
They are bright. I'm gonna put them on.
okay, yeah,
And here's my hard ice. It's
yeah,
actually, I think, what spurred the conversation between us
yeah,
that day. Yeah.
totally, yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's a conversation starter.
it
For sure.
definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you have like a hippie vibe for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, how do you like the shag? I mean,
Yeah, you're really feeling 70s right now.
I went.
Yeah.
I took a picture of Mick Jagger to my barber, and it's actually the
Did you
first.
really?
It's actually, yeah,
I love that.
because it's the shag with the straight hair can get real mop toppy. It can get real.
We're gonna have to keep that up.
Like just call me Nico Star. Like it's real Fifth Beatle.
Did he tell you like what the maintenance was of how often you're gonna have to go in?
He was not too sure it could work.
Okay.
To be honest, he's a very blunt person, which I appreciate. But he's like, I don't know, man. You got really straight, fine hair, and you almost need
Right.
a little bit of. I mean, Mick Jagger's head was so thick. I mean, his hair was so. I mean, he had a lot of hair.
Yeah.
And Megan, the owner of the shop, this is Union Barbershop, was like, God, what a babe. And we've determined that instead of Mick Jagger, I am Nick Swagger. So
Oh, fun.
no, it was a really fun time to like learn how to tackle that haircut together, because
Yeah.
it's one that can get like real curly this way, and that gets kind of weird. It's one that sea salt spray it on the hand, just bush it up.
I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, so I was predominantly in a female world from first grade,
Yeah.
second grade, all the way through 12th grade. And even when I entered college and even like the first few years of working, I always just gravitated towards like my female coworkers because I grew up in such a like segregated religious atmosphere that like men and women are totally separate. And so I didn't know a lot about guys. And so I did not realize how much work goes into men's hair.
Oh yeah, it certainly can.
It can. It can't, but it also very much can. And it's like,
In fashion,
yeah.
I am pretty into like old fashion. This actually, this is just dawning on me right now. This whole outfit is from this place called May's Place. These pants, this shirt.
I just heard about that on
this
Instagram.
jacket.
That's
Yeah, they
so
closed.
Oh, really?
They're still going to do their markets, I believe, but yeah, the owner's going to focus on family.
Okay.
She's having another child, and
Fair enough.
but but yeah, I mean, not only were the garments made exceptionally well and to last, but if their owners really cared about it, they're just like buying new clothes in a way with really cool cuts, like the collars in particular.
Yeah.
Really like those collars. But yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, if you think about it, most people aren't going to see you walking on the street and be like, he looks like he has a really cool personality, or I really like the way his mind thinks, you know?
yeah,
Or he has a really big heart. Like until you get to know someone, experience them, you don't
yeah,
see that side of them.
right,
So fashion is an opportunity to express yourself without speaking.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
if you're willing to be daring
yeah,
and be 100% authentically you,
yeah,
you will attract like-minded people. If
yeah,
you think about it, what's the first conversation starter? Oh, I like your sunglasses.
100%.
Oh, I like your shirt,
Yep.
right? So not only is it a way for you to express yourself, but it's a conversation
It's a great
starter.
way to meet people.
Yeah, like I had a history teacher in high school who told us that whenever you're going out in public, especially networking events or job interviews or dates, always wear like a statement piece
Yeah,
because it will spark a conversation.
100%. Yeah, I was at Mardi Gras yesterday,
Oh, were you?
hence
No
the
wonder
late,
you had a late night. Okay, this is explaining everything.
hence the
So
late
to
coffee.
pause,
Yeah,
we have Le Cafe coffee. This is my coffee brand in case you didn't know.
and it's so good. As many great drinks as you've made me and have ordered
We'll cut that out.
at your place. This is the first Le Cafe drink that I've had. I think
Yeah.
officially, it's very good. It's bold. It's
Mhm.
flavorful, and it's necessary today.
Yep.
But anyways, my point at Mardi Gras, I was wearing these purple corduroy bells and a yellow shirt and a green cardigan to
Oh,
have.
you were on theme,
I was on theme,
but you were also on brand.
but also like you said, it looked straight out of the 70s with this haircut,
Mhm.
and people were calling me Shaggy because of the cartoonish
I
colors.
see it.
The
Oh my
cartoony colors, they were
gosh.
like, "Oh my god." And I was like, "Yep, I lost my dog. It's a mystery. We're on the hunt."
That's
It was a whole
hilarious.
hilarious thing. And like you said, be bold with it, be expressive with it, and some people will love it, and some people will be like, "Wow, dude."
Yeah.
It's just it is what it is.
And that's the best thing because honestly, I don't know, maybe it's I'm just getting older, but like I think I've just gotten into this like no bullshit phase of my life where I'm just really not into wasting my time with the people in my life.
Hmm,
So I'd rather weed them out faster.
nice.
So even with my energy, the way
Yeah,
that I dress, all of that, it's like, this is me.
sure. Yeah, I think
Like it
that's a
or
good way
leave
to be.
it.
Yeah, time is so limited, and we're here for such a
Yeah.
short time.
And it's
Where
just energy. Like,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I and this is for me. I wear this for me. This is just
brings you joy.
it is a good conversational starter. It is a way to express yourself, but it does bring me joy. It makes me feel good in my own skin,
Yeah.
and so this is really for me.
I love it. And I feel like on my end, I like to dress fancy and dress like super like girly too.
Yeah,
And so like at first at my barista job, like baristas kind of are like more casual, hippie kind of vibes. They have the beanies. You know, there's almost like a uniform, right?
yeah,
But like I have all these cute clothes for my corporate days.
yeah.
And I'm not gonna wear heels at being a barista. Like there's a line. But I still like at one point, like I think a few months in, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wear my dresses again because I miss them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. So going back to you, music is so incredibly powerful. Everyone connects on it on some level.
Mhm.
And even people like me who like could barely remember artist names or song names, I love music. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not listening to music. And um, well, there's so many different elements that I want to get into, but I would love to start from the beginning because I think childhood is so like it's such a pivotal part of like why you are the way you are.
Yeah.
And I think the way that your parents
Yeah.
raised you, the fact that you were like going to concerts in the womb,
Yeah, you remember that.
really sets the trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have had the great fortune of having parents that took me to so many concerts growing up, and even before I was born. Like
Mhm.
Crosby, Stills, Nash
Yeah.
at Kiel was the first show. I was in my mom's belly, and she likes to tell the story that I was just kicking and dancing when they were playing. And then I think the first show after birth was REO Speedwagon, Casey and the Sunshine Band, all these legendary bands that I really just enjoyed at various festivals and shows around town. Really gave me my first sense of just community outside of the nuclear family. Like who are all these people gathering in one place
Right.
to experience this?
And it's
This
not a religious gathering.
or exactly. Or I mean, it can feel that way sometimes, and it certainly felt that way later in life, and it does now. But back then, it was just such a fun thing to be on Dad's shoulders and to experience everybody having a good time, and
Yeah.
there was nothing like it, and it was immediately just something that drew me into it that I could have never been able to shake or would ever want to shake. It's been a calling, and I'm blessed to have that because I feel like that's so important for people to have a sense of meaning in their life, and for me it's always been music.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there are so many avenues where you could take that. You're right. um, it's shaped everything about my life, actually. I mean, the jobs that I've taken, where I've moved, who I've dated, um,
Right.
what I've chosen to pursue in every
Because
way.
wouldn't it be the worst thing to date someone who's like has music taste that's completely opposite yours?
For me, yeah. And it
Yeah.
sounds shallow, but for me, like I
It's
really
not.
I have to connect to my person on that level. And
If
it's
music is that
Yeah.
deeply ingrained in who you are and is that deeply part of your daily life,
Yeah.
that's not shallow.
I thank you.
It's a value at that point.
And I know there are more important things. I know the value system doesn't end at music.
No,
But
see, this is what I was talking about just a few minutes ago when I was saying like I'm done trying to like
okay.
hold back. Like, you know what? I was just saying to my mom the other day, like I'm on a health journey, and part of like everyone's always like, okay, well, you have to have a why. Like, what's your why? What's your strong reason?
Yeah.
And all these years I was like trying to come up with something deep and insightful and what sounds good, right, to other people.
Yeah.
And the other day I looked at my mom and I was like, I just want to be hot. That's my why. That's it.
Unabashedly, I want to be hot.
That's it. And it's like, I don't care if it sounds shallow. It's important to me.
Sure.
And I think that there's a lot of benefit to being hot. I think it opens a lot of doors.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Period. And I feel like when you have that confidence, it's not shallow. It's a passion.
Yeah.
And also for music, for so many people, it is like a religion, right?
Yeah. And there's nothing hotter than someone who's passionate to me about music that I also am passionate about. Yeah. I mean,
that's pretty much it.
most of my relationships have started because of music. Not all, not even my longest. But it's such a connector, like you said, that it strikes to the core of who I am.
And if you think about it, let's say you're going to a concert or a festival of a particular group that you're just super passionate about. You're going to meet similar types of people, but you're going to meet all kinds of people who share this one love, which is very cool.
It's so cool. And you're literally experiencing the same vibrations.
Yeah.
And it does lock everyone into a certain groove, I think.
Yeah.
It can literally change brainwaves. I mean, like a long conversation or a hug, it can really literally lower cortisol levels. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a fun little pivot to the conversation that I want to take was that I kind of threw you for a loop when we had our pregame coffee.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I've never been to a concert
in
my whole life.
I can't fathom. I don't want to feel bad for you, but I'm shocked.
Right.
I still?
Yeah. I mean, well, I went to one like 3 or 4 years ago. And that just goes to show it didn't really leave that much of a mark because it's not like, oh, I went to one and ever since then, like, I've been a concert goer. I guess maybe technically 2. I went to a July 4th fireworks show.
There we go.
Where they had artists.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't there for that purpose. I was there to see the fireworks.
Yeah.
And like I didn't know who these artists were. And back then, so I've really been working on not being as anxious and being more out there. And when I know someone, I'm totally outgoing and it's not a problem. But I used to be super shy. And I've worked on it. It's really not so much the case anymore.
Plot twist.
But being in that concert for that first time, it was the summer, it was hot. There was hundreds of people all scattered across Art Hill because it was at Art Hill that year.
Cool.
And at one part there was this part of me that was excited, but from the perspective of the super religious girl who grew up so sheltered to all of a sudden be in this environment where I was very modestly dressed and everyone's like half naked
Yeah.
and drinking, and I'm
Yeah.
not a drinker. And like they're singing these songs that I don't know, and it's hot and it's loud, and the music is just booming. I don't know the song, so I'm not into the vibe. It was this really weird mixture of like, I could see nuggets of what you're saying about how it's exciting and
Yeah.
being part of something, but I didn't feel like I was in my
Yeah.
element,
Yeah.
right? So what I felt was a little overwhelmed and really kind of like, I don't know, it's like if you step into a new country and you don't speak the language, right? And like there's new sounds and new noises, and it's exciting, but it's scary and terrifying at the same time. That's
Mhm.
kind of how I felt. And then last January, my friend, for her birthday, it wasn't at a Taylor Swift concert, but it was like a Taylor party where it was like, I forgot what venue it was in the Loop, and they did like
Delmar Hall.
probably, or maybe it was the pageant. No, I don't even know. Regardless, it was mostly women anyway, so that made it a little bit more comfortable. But it was like dark nightclub kind of scene. There was disco balls, and then they were playing a bunch of Taylor Swift songs. I'm so sorry. I don't like her. Not a Swiftie.
I can't say that I'm a Swiftie.
There are certain songs that I really enjoy.
Same.
Not
What are
like,
some that you gravitate towards?
I think there's like moments in my life where I gravitate to
Yeah.
certain songs.
I like the stuff she
I think some of the angry songs.
yeah.
I like Bad Reputation.
Yeah, I mean the Jack Antonoff stuff is that he produced is good. What's the album Folklore is pretty legit. Cardigan is a cool song, but also like style. You know, if I'm DJing a show and
Yeah.
people are like, just give me some Taylor as a request that I might get, without even a specific song, I'm probably gonna play style.
Fair.
You know,
You're gonna play what like resonates with you.
what
'cause
can
that
get the dance
passion's
floor
gonna
moving.
like go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like just even being there, like everyone was dancing and partying, and like again, I'm not a huge Swiftie.
Yeah.
So like even though I recognize some of the songs, I'm just kind of like shimmying, but like feeling really uncomfortable, and like everyone's
Yeah.
drinking and being like all wild, and I'm like, this is not fun.
I get
for
it.
me.
It's overstimulation, and I know
Yeah.
that I worked for Live Nation from like 2016 to 2020. Actually, I worked for an agency that had a bunch of Live Nation accounts, but they back then they learned that these venues can really kind of pad the calendar with these tribute shows, like DJs playing a certain artist, or like 90s night or Taylor Swift night,
Yeah.
and they do really well. You probably noticed a lot of people there, right?
Oh yeah,
so,
it was packed.
so
People
it's
were having a great time.
yeah, and same for your Art Hill experience, where it's an overstimulation and it's hot. That's I've certainly had bad concert experiences, so I'm sorry to hear that has been the case so far.
Yeah.
But I think you should give it another shot.
I think it has to be an artist who I'm like really
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be an artist. The style of music, it's not, you could help me verbalize the genre, if you will. But I like maybe more R&B, like chill vibes.
R&B to me is a term that I have to crack open more to know, because there's like, there's old 50s rhythm and blues, like kind of like jump blues stuff. It's like
Anything
more rock.
old school.
Like old school rhythm and blues.
Old school,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
blues, jazz, love jazz. But like, I feel like I would really, I mean, this isn't really like a concert vibe, I don't think, but like a jazz bar, I feel like I would really enjoy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the symphony. I cry at the symphony. I love classical music.
Same.
But I think that's because I grew up like dancing ballet.
Yeah.
And then I used to grow up going to Barnes and Nobles, doing my homework there.
Cool.
And the manager at the time always played classical music. So classical music was a big part of my upbringing.
Yeah.
Which I think your upbringing has a lot to do with your
It
music
does.
taste.
For me, the magic of the Barnes and Noble or the Borders or anything where you could like scan the CD and listen to it, I would spend all afternoon doing that.
Yeah.
And I've never admitted this. I've admitted that I've like discovered Lightnin' Hopkins from a compilation record, but I've never admitted it was from a listening station. It was either Barnes and Noble or Borders. And that was like, I was 14 and it blew my mind to pieces because it was the most raw, visceral thing I had ever heard. and that was when I really started to go into like raves and stuff like that. So I was really getting into the electronic music scene. This is a while ago, before EDM was really even a term. But I was also like discovering blues at the same time. And
EDM is huge now.
yeah,
I feel
I
like
mean,
everyone's going to raves and
oh,
just.
The house scene in St. Louis is above board these days, and
Mhm.
it's big, and there are
And there's a
venues.
huge sobriety EDM community as well, which is really
I like to see
interesting.
that. I would like to see more of that. For me, to be a 14-year-old kid, very young, kind of throwing myself into that culture was something I had to kind of navigate through the drugs. Just kind of stayed away from it. So
14 years old,
yeah,
that's a very young and impressionable age.
I know.
That's usually when people get into them.
hmm I stayed away.
How did you do that? Like, what?
How did I even get there?
No, not even that. Like, how did you have the, I don't know, is the right word, inner strength to not do that?
Yeah, I grew up quick.
Was
I
it just
grew up
not
in
your thing? Like, and you just were like, I have no interest, I see no value, or what was it?
Yeah, for me it was, I don't know this strange man offering me these substances, and so I don't trust it.
Right.
I mean,
So you had a good head on your shoulders.
yeah, I probably have seen too much at an early age. I grew up in bars in St. Louis, and um, I just, for me and my friend who I took, I felt a responsibility for that person as well. So it was very much, let's keep it about the music and have a good time, and we certainly saw
See, but I
people.
love that
Yeah,
because
I
then
mean,
you're really enjoying the experience without some sort of outside substance, and then you're able to separate the two, right? So
yeah,
you're not saying like, because I think for some people it could be kind of hard for them to enjoy that scene without it.
and more power to them if that's how they want to enjoy it. Be safe about it. I've certainly, later on in life, maybe have experimented in certain things, but for me, it was always about what how high can the music make me on its own, So, um, and that's the marker of a good show, I think, is leaving it feeling
Yeah.
this natural high.
Right. Well,
So,
fun fact. So in Judaism, like Orthodox Judaism, a lot of people refrain from listening to any music that's been created by someone who is not Jewish. And even if they are Jewish, people are very discerning about who is this person, what are their morals, what are their values, like
mm,
who they are as people, because it's such a soul thing that
yeah,
we believe that, like, let's say, for example, an artist releases a song that's totally PG, it's
hmm
totally pure, but they're not a pure person.
hmm,
We believe that whatever is going on with them transmutes through the song into your soul,
interesting.
almost like a soul contract. Like music is a
Oof,
religious soul contract.
yeah,
And so growing up, that's part of the reason why I'm so into classical music, because classical music was kosher, if you will, because there was no lyrics, right?
yeah,
And it was so old fashioned that I'm like, oh, it must be okay. And then I would listen to like the old school jazz because I'm like, this seems like totally PG. They're not talking about anything that's like, you know,
yeah,
it's censored. So it's just so funny because like, I mean, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't really like censor myself in terms of what music I listen to, but it is just an intriguing thought how there is that energy dynamic,
yeah,
conscious or unconscious.
absolutely. I think there is, and from I know this from DJing large shows. I've certainly there's like a certain, maybe power is not the right word, but influence that you have as the person who is putting out those vibrations into a large room, or even an intimate situation, where you can literally make someone's night. You can make them forget about what they came in with, or you can expand upon it and make them really think about it.
Literally.
There's like a certain
Like, have you ever just cried listening to someone sing because it's
oh,
so
oh
soulful?
yeah,
You're like,
unavoidably so.
it
Even when I
just
didn't want to, I was like, please don't do
literally.
this to me right now.
It's funny because like in person, it's even more so. Like
Yeah,
that's why like even going to the symphony, hearing that music, it's like
yeah,
there's just something so powerful about it.
yeah.
But like even just sometimes I'll be scrolling on TikTok, and one of my favorite things on TikTok, the algorithm has me now. where it's like, I love when people sing covers of songs, but in
Yeah.
a much more soulful way.
I love that.
So a lot of these like underrated up and coming artists
Yeah.
try to put themselves out there. They'll do covers of songs on TikTok,
Hmm.
and you see them in parking garages, in their cars, in stairwells, like wherever there's really good acoustics
Yeah.
because they don't have the money for like a fancy studio.
Yeah.
And you just hear them like singing their song out, and I'll be like, I'm supposed to be cleaning my house, but all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm like, I gotta sit down.
Hmm.
It's the best.
This happened to me yesterday. I was at 1860s in Soulard, and there was this great band. They were like a soul funk situation, playing a lot of the classic American songbook, and they invited this guest up, and she sang "Creep" by Radiohead.
I love that
in
song.
it was such a shift from what we were all experiencing that
Just kind of stopped
you know,
everybody
and
in their tracks.
after a few shots of whiskey and everything, it really just hit me just right. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't cry, but it definitely had
You
me
felt a little teary eyed, maybe.
it
A little soulful.
yeah, it felt soulful in a really sentimental kind of way. So yeah.
Fun fact, by the way, you just reminded me. This is so random and totally off topic. I'm so sorry. I have ADD. But one of my customers, he is an author.
Okay.
And he gave me a copy of his book. And one of the things he does is he's a bartender.
Yeah.
And so he's very similar to me. Meets lots of people, has all these stories. I'm reading his book right now. And I found out why they're called shots. Because this is so interesting, right?
Give it to me.
I know. So listen, so back in the day, like pioneer Old West America,
Yeah.
a lot of times people would barter for things, especially alcohol. And so cowboys used to give the bartender a bullet for a shot of whiskey, which wasn't called a shot of whiskey at the time, but that's why it got the name a shot,
Yeah.
because you would exchange a bullet for the alcohol,
Interesting.
right? That's why it's called a
Oh.
shot.
That's very cool and very like Western. I like it.
Isn't that such a cool story?
And I'm just not a shot guy at all. Like yesterday was
No, I don't see you as one.
No,
I mean, I don't know much about alcohol, but I just see you as someone who like appreciates. If you're going to drink, it's going to be something that you could
Yes.
savor.
make it cold, please. Those warm shots of whiskey were getting to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know much about alcohol. I've never gotten drunk.
oh wow, congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I've never felt the need to.
Yeah.
I've gotten tipsy, but then I'm always like, I need to drink water or eat something. I like to be in control.
Exactly. I do not like to not be in
Yeah.
control of my faculties.
Yeah, I do like the tipsy state though, and that's a dangerous line because
That's
depending
fun.
on if you've had anything to eat
Yeah.
or like time of day, all these factors, what
Yeah.
you're drinking, how much you've had, but like
100%.
to be a little at ease,
Right.
kind of be able to just sit back and enjoy
Yeah.
yourself. Like sometimes,
It's a conversational lubricant. You know, I like a good cocktail
Yeah.
with dinner or two.
yeah,
Do not like to be drunk. I remember the last time I was like really inebriated was in New Orleans. I went to the Napoleon House, is what it's called in the French Quarter,
cool.
and they had absinthe,
Uh,
and had way too much, and then stumbled my way into what I had planned for the rest of the evening, which was to see live jazz at the Preservation Jazz Hall. Incredible experience, except I was just obnoxiously drunk, and it is just such a small room, smaller than this room. It's a live music venue that has basically church pews.
oh, cool.
And it's
theory.
it's an impossible way to hide that you're just unable to really even sit straight.
Okay.
And that that was not a wake up call. It's not like I've ever had a problem drinking.
But you're just like, I don't want to repeat that.
I don't ever want to be that drunk in public again,
Yeah.
or even in private. It was just a miserable.
See, that's my
miserable
thing.
time.
Like every time that I've even had a drink, like
Yeah.
even that's, I have two thoughts on it. One is I've never had an experience where it truly has brought me joy.
Mm.
So there's that.
With alcohol,
Yeah.
right?
And then the second part is that I just think, and maybe this is the Jew in me, I like to suffer a little bit.
Oh gosh.
Where it's like, let's say, for example, I'm feeling anxious in a big group, right?
Yeah.
My thought is, not to go get a drink so I can relax. My thought is, let me keep coming back to this social situation and do immersion therapy as many times as
Cool.
possible
All right.
until this isn't uncomfortable for me.
Oh, wow. Are we masochists?
I guess so. Because, like, I guess so, because I'm just, that's how you learn. Like, I just never liked the idea of something external being in charge of me enjoying myself.
Mm,
I'm like, I'll earn it. I'll learn how to be social.
yeah.
If I feel awkward, then I'm going to just keep doing this until I'm not.
Interesting. So this was a
Yeah.
learned skill for you. I just assumed you were always this way.
No. When I first started as a barista,
Yeah.
I haven't even been a barista for a full year. I've never worked in food service before.
Yeah.
April, just this past year, is when I started. When I tell you, I used to like trip over my feet and stumble my words, and I would get so overwhelmed and just didn't know how to do it. And it was, but I didn't have a choice because I did it all day, every day, and I just kept practicing and
Yeah.
practicing and practicing. And there was another barista that I worked with who was just so good with customers and so friendly. And there was a few of them actually, and I just watched. And like a little baby bird, I just regurgitated like their behaviors, their mannerisms, what they said, what seemed to work.
Yeah.
And I studied it like a science. I even read this book,
Wow.
50 Scientific Proven Ways to Be More Persuasive.
Oh my gosh. That
Mhm.
sounds good for marketing and sales. You can give me some tips.
I do have some tips.
Do any we want to share?
Yeah. The first one is, okay, well, this is a fun coffee one. So it actually takes coffee 40 minutes to fully go into your system and make you feel caffeinated. And the reason why a lot of people will choose to do coffee meetings is because caffeine makes someone more persuadable.
Hmm.
So if you want to persuade someone on something, take them out for coffee, like cafe, and treat them to coffee. And then just schmooze, chit chat, let them do most of the talking. Don't feel the need to like rush yourself. And then at like about the 40-minute mark, hit them with your pitch.
Whoa.
And there'll be more.
You're giving too many good tips out here.
It's in the book.
Now people are going to be on to you.
It works though. You know, another really great one is, so in customer service, if you have a mirror behind the person serving, so let's say, for example, if I'm like serving you and I'm behind the cash register and there's a mirror behind me,
Right.
you are more likely to treat me with more respect and be polite, even if you're feeling frustrated, because you see yourself. And then you could see yourself getting frustrated or looking like a jerk, and it checks you.
I thought about this yesterday
Did you?
because one of the places I was seeing music had mirrors behind the band. And so you can see yourself dancing to the band.
Mhm.
And you're like, all of a sudden it creates a dynamic where you're becoming aware of more than what's happening on stage. You're
Mhm.
becoming aware of what's happening around you and your friends and the dance floor. So, and it almost made you want to dance more.
Yeah. It also makes the room bigger as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Especially if you're in a smaller venue, it
Yeah.
gives that optical illusion.
Yep.
I can imagine if alcohol is involved as well, that even amplifies that effect, you know?
Exactly.
And if there's like dim lights and like the flashing lights, all that involved, like I could see how that can really like amplify that effect. Another great one is just authentic connection with someone.
Mm.
And so it's almost like we all have thoughts when we see people like, oh, I really like your vibe, or you've got great energy, or I love your outfit. And sometimes we're brave enough to say it if the vibe feels right, but we don't always do that.
Right.
As a barista, I pretty much do with every single person.
Yeah.
To create that vibe.
Yeah. I got so many of those situations yesterday. Everyone was showing up in like cool outfits yesterday. It wasn't the warmest Mardi Gras, but it was doable. And
Yeah, it wasn't so bad yesterday.
It was like the pants parade, man. People wearing the coolest pants. I was wearing my purple corduroys, as I said, and it's just there are a lot of people that are just like, "Whoa, love the fit," and it's literally just. I met a lot of people just through those pants. I'm gonna have to wear those again.
Like I said, a conversation starter.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah. And so the other one, this one's specific for like if you're working in a food service industry, where it's like, you'll probably notice this the next time you come into the shop. If you tell me your order, I'll repeat it back to you. So even on a day when I'm not feeling particularly sociable, at the very least, I will repeat your order verbatim back to you.
Do you remember my order?
No.
It's so stupid.
What is your order?
if there's no one around me in line
Okay.
and I want to be real about it, and I
Yeah.
want what I want,
Yeah.
I'm gonna order the caramel macchiato.
Okay.
What kind of milk? Oh, this is where it gets absurd.
Okay.
Half whole.
Half oat because it's the perfect texture.
Yeah, it's the perfect consistency
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
flavor.
I'm remembering this now. And by the way, just so you feel better about your choices,
Yeah,
I think that's a natural thing that you've come to notice and appreciate. But in the barista world, like the professional barista competitions,
yeah,
a lot of them will blend
yeah. Milks.
milks.
It's
So you're onto something.
yeah. I mean, flavor wise, the whole milk is where it's at, and you'll know that if you get an AB of the same latte or whatever. But I am trying to cut back on my dairy. It's
Mhm.
it's, and oat milk is a great consistency, but the flavor's not necessarily there for me. But combining the two and then having it
Perfect texture.
frothed, it's just perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know what's so funny? We had such a slow 3 months at the coffee shop, and now all the regulars are coming back. I don't remember anyone's names. I don't remember anyone's orders. I remember their faces.
Yeah.
But it's been too long.
And my order will change depending on where I'm at, in which spot I'm at. I feel like I order
Yeah.
different things at different places.
And
Obviously,
that's okay.
that's normal.
Yeah.
I don't have like a go-to coffee order.
And that's probably why I don't remember your order. We're going to go with that reason.
Okay.
Because
I do switch it up occasionally too.
yeah, if you switch it up, it's going to be hard for me versus like if you always get the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Yeah, we're going to go with that.
Mm.
Oh, the other one was
Right.
creating like meaningful connection with the person,
Mm-hmm.
like truly being interested and invested in them.
Yeah. So truly being interested and invested and not doing it to persuade them.
Yeah, like you just really are like, you're a cool person.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously, we're here for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but like, let me find something authentic to connect with you. Let me give you a perfect example.
Please.
Oh, you want to share that first?
Oh well, I was just touching it.
We'll save it. We'll save
I'll
it.
save it.
We'll save it. We got a little special treat for you guys later. Um, but basically, I was in high school, and it was a small Jewish Orthodox girls' school. There was 25 girls in the whole school, 8 girls in my class.
Cool.
It fluctuated how big the class was over the years. Some girls moved, some girls stayed, whatever. We bullied each other terribly, 2nd through 8th grade. It was terrible.
Mean girls.
Very vicious. As vicious as you could possibly imagine.
Ouch.
And in high school, it was better. We started to mature and grow up. But I remember in 10th grade, I just got to a point where I'm like, I cannot stand these girls. And I'm stuck with them for hours every day. They're not going anywhere. So I remember I went to my principal and I was like, listen, I need your help. Because I hate every girl in my class. And I don't want to. I'm exhausted. And she gave me brilliant advice. And this is brilliant for you too. And for anyone listening, if there's someone that is in your life who you hate and are frustrated with and you have no choice, they're in your life, here's what you do. Every single day, you notice something about them that you admire.
Whoa.
And it could be so shallow.
Yeah.
It could be as shallow as like cool shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you have to notice it, you have to verbalize it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I had nothing to lose. So I was like, why not? When I tell you within 1 year.
A year. It
A
took
year.
That's a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time.
Well, come on. The hatred was kind of built up. But within 1 year, I remember reflecting on it. I'm like, it totally changed. There was like one girl, for example, who had a sniffle. And when we were taking tests and I heard her snip, I wanted to rip her head off. Not to be dramatic. But at the end of the year, because we had built like such a cute friendship, I was like, oh, it's just her little sniffle. It's amazing how like she did not change. My perception of reality changed.
Mm-hmm. It is amazing. A mind shift is very possible. In fact, that's really similar to advice that my therapist gave me when I was dealing with some stuff with someone to just forgive every night, and then similar to the admiration thing, just think about the humanity in that person and realize we're all just going through something.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm going to take your advice and combine it with his advice, the forgiveness meets admiration thing, I think is a way to get over that. Because hatred, if it gets to that point, oh, it's so heavy.
Resentment.
Resentment
Resentment
is
leads to hatred.
resentment. He likes to say, my therapist, that it's anger over 24 hours old, and resentment is the connection killer. I mean, it will take the strongest connections, the most unbreakable
Yes.
bonds, and just toxify them to the
Yes.
point of disrepair, unless
Mhm.
both parties are willing and able. But forgiveness, and I think admiration is a really good part of it, is the way to shed that resentment.
Correct.
So,
And are you familiar with Mel Robbins?
not really.
She is a renowned therapist
Mm.
and has a podcast. She has been a podcast guest on many of the famous podcasts, like
Mel
School of
Robbins.
Greatness, multiple times.
Cool.
She has this book that I'm actually reading for my mocktails and mindfulness group
There we go.
that I'm a part of. It's her book is called Let Them.
Mm.
And it's very true. And this bleeds into my whole love of Kabbalah and spirituality, which is the only person you have control over, the only thing you have control over is how you react.
Mm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole world is just an illusion. And it's here for you to elevate your soul
Yeah.
to its mission that was brought into this world.
There we
to
go.
do.
There we go. That's it.
That's it.
And I'm,
And-
this is me learning this
Yeah.
over time. Let's not how we react or how we don't react, and choose to just wait and respond, and not taking things personally and not making assumptions. These are all things that,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
well
hard.
into adulthood. I'm still working on. And
No, these are hard lessons.
these are lifelong lessons, right?
And the thing is, I think that we have this misconception that when we reach a certain point in our lives, we're going to have it all figured out. It's going to be easy street.
No.
But as long as you're alive,
Yeah.
you are going to have challenges and you're going
We
to
are
have pain.
lifelong students.
But that doesn't mean you also won't have joy and good times too. There's a balance, right?
Right.
But it's just like the other thing is even if you leave a situation,
Mm-hmm.
whether they leave or you leave, if you haven't learned the lesson that you were supposed to learn,
Yeah.
you're going to have it in a new situation.
It's the pattern will absolutely keep happening
until you learn the lesson.
Mhm.
I have had over 13 people in my life
Yeah.
who have disappeared after I've learned the lesson.
Mm.
Bosses, coworkers who I thought I would never,
Yeah.
get rid of. I'm telling you, as soon as you just accept them with love and be
Mhm.
like, what can I learn from you?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's what you learn, what not to do.
Exactly.
But when we had our coffee pregame, and I can't believe I've waited this long to share this, but I, to be honest, kind of forgot. But at the same time, I also think about it, and I mentioned you probably every day since this coffee thing because it's made such a profound difference in my life. Your therapist said about whatever, you didn't share what situation it was, but just whatever situation that you were going through that was hard, and you were thinking about all the variables and trying to be positive and be like, oh, and projecting the potential of what you saw versus looking at the reality of what is.
Yeah.
And your therapist was just like, well, are you happy?
That cuts to the core of it.
Literally, ever since then, it has made such a big difference in my approach to so many things.
Yeah.
Where it's am I happy?
Mm-hmm.
I'm no more waiting on that potential.
Right. And our brains are amazing at explaining things away or making excuses for or talking ourselves into situations that aren't serving us, that when we cut to the core of it, and he made me speechless in that session because I was doing that, and he just will not let me make any excuses. He will hold me accountable. He will not let me shift blame. It's made me a very accountable person, but that the point where you know if something is worth, I think, fighting for or working through something with somebody is are you happy? And that I hated to answer no to that question because I wanted to be happy in that situation. Really did. Knew that I could be, but there we go again with the potential. And
Could
so,
be, but was it really what they could give you, or was it, if you were them, what you would have done to make you happy?
Yeah. It's a lot of that, or what was, or what you thought was, and
there was a taste of what you thought it could be, and that was something new. Totally.
Yeah.
It's humbling, but I think that's why another one is also not trying to control the situation and letting things unfold is another one.
Trying my best.
It's hard.
It is hard. This podcast, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and and let go and trusting the universe. It's just something that is so unnatural to me. It's been ingrained in me since I was this tall. Like if you want something, you have to make it happen.
Mm.
You have to fight for it. And
Plus, you're a man, so there's
part,
that inner
there's part
masculine
of,
feeling.
certainly,
Yeah.
especially parents, divorcing when I was 3 years old. I mean,
Oh, wow, that's
being
young.
a man of the house very young, and not to go too deep on being parentified at a young age, but it certainly was there for me. And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's been very unnatural and humbling in a way to just let things go and to just trust fall into the universe more, because
That makes so much
that's
sense. There was no one there to do that for you, so you
mm-mm.
always had to take on that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and in knowing that if I didn't, it would just fall to shit. And so that is very much carried over into my adult life, where I am
But there's a balance.
oh, for sure.
Because I used to think it was very extreme, where it's like,
Yeah.
just let go.
I can't, there is a balance.
You're not supposed to do that either.
Right.
It's more about like, I think music, let's go back to that.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. Learning the guitar, because I am a novice guitar player.
Oh, cool.
I haven't touched it in years, but I did play for
Dust
like
off
2
those
years.
strings, tune it up, let's go.
I played acoustic guitar. I don't know if my guitar teacher listens, but if you are, Aaron, I still have my guitar.
Let's go, Aaron.
But that was such a fun story. I have had so many stories where like I put myself in situations where like I should be dead, but like I somehow am not. Regardless, I'm just gonna give a little. This is a fun shout out. So I was looking for a guitar teacher, and I looked on the good old internet, and I found my guitar teacher, Aaron, and he had a website. I was like, well, it's probably legit, right? I mean, looking back, anybody could create a website, but it seemed legit. He had like, reviews and testimonials.
There we go.
So I messaged him and I was like, hey, I would love to hear what your prices are. Here's what I have. Here's what I like to learn, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I know nothing about music. And then he was like, yeah, let's do like a trial class and you can see how it goes and blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, yeah, here's my address. I teach from home. And I'm like, going to a strange man's house. Not sure how I feel about that. And then the directions that he gave me for his house, he's like, yeah, when you get to my house, you park in front of this address and you go around the corner in the alleyway down the stairs. And I'm like, I'm about to die. I'm about to die.
Just the phrase alleyway. It's over for me. See ya.
Alley in the dark, in the basement. I'm like, and this is how I die.
Oh no.
But I'm fine.
Yeah.
He was great.
Cool.
He just had his music studio downstairs.
Yeah. I'm glad that you lived to tell the tale.
I
and
did.
Have a few chords under your belt.
Yeah. I played with him for 2 years. He made me hot chocolate. It was great.
There we go. You got hot chocolate out of it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know. It was great. It was great. But my love for long nails kind of overpowered my love for guitar.
Oof.
Yeah.
There are players that make that work. So.
I know.
Look at John Butler. His nails got outrageous when he had a really cool finger picking style. I think he's an Australian guy. I don't really.
Yeah, it's just difficult to find a teacher who would know how to teach that style. You know what I mean? It's more of like he already had that skill, but then he learned how to make it work, right?
Yeah. Right, and some will actually let their nails grow
on purpose
with their right hand to use them as picks.
Yes, that's what I've heard. Like the right hand is longer, but then the long hand is at least are super short. My calluses were great for a long time too. So.
I tried it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I tried to because I play finger picking style.
Yeah,
I don't really use a pick.
I wanted to learn flamenco guitar. That's what I was like intrigued by. And he was like, let's start with the basics.
Yeah. So for me, like flesh on string, it's a lot duller of a sound than a pick. It's a much brighter sound. It cuts through and in the mix. But there are absolutely ways to compensate for that lack of brightness with the pickups that you use or the EQ on your amp. But I definitely tried the fingernails thing and to get a brighter sound, and I just did not like it. I just like the feel. I want to feel the strings.
Yeah.
So yeah.
See, it's preference.
Yeah.
It all comes down to that, and that's a learning curve that every guitar player has to kind of.
Yeah, you got to experiment.
Do it for yourself. That's a hands-on experience. But to go back to like my whole analogy with the music thing versus having control. So for example, what got me at the age of like 22, 23, all of a sudden wanting to take up guitar lessons when most people start as a child.
Yeah.
I am the type of person that like I had just discovered the world of music, not just my little bubble. And I get to a point where like I am not okay with just being a consumer. I want to be a creator. I want to feel the music. I want to create the music. I want to be part of the process.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let me start with lessons. But it's very frustrating in the beginning because you know what you want to sound like, but you have to do the hard work. You have to do the drills and the exercises and practicing your chords over and over and over again and building up, the calluses, because that takes time too. And that only comes with consistent effort every single day. And it's like daily, you are not seeing the progress.
Mm-hmm.
But then one day it kind of hits and
Yeah.
it surprises you almost even. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, my fingers just did muscle memory on their own.
Yeah.
Or like, wait, that song actually sounded low key kind of good.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, I could sing while I play.
It
Like
does
that's multitasking.
It does surprise you sometimes.
Like it hits you randomly, but it only happens
Right.
when you're putting in that work that in your mind doesn't equate what you're wanting. Like you understand it's part of the process, but I think that's true in everything in life. If you show up every day and you do some sort of actionable step, big or small, towards whatever goal you have, those actionable steps may not be the ones, but that energy that you put out into the ether, that's what will bring the final result.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they say? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And those steps add up. And it doesn't feel like it. But then one day you look back and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
And then sometimes you have to put yourself in a situation where you have to keep moving forward and there's no way out. For example, I'm going to Africa this summer.
Whoa.
Did I tell you about this?
What part?
I'm going to Tanzania.
Okay.
I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh my goodness.
So quite literally.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, thanks.
Are you training for that?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Wow.
I'm trying. I mean, like, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's also balancing my responsibilities in my everyday life. Like, I'm not dropping everything to just like train.
Yeah.
It's more of like a trek than an Everest climb.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think the hardest thing is it's hours of hiking.
Yeah.
It's like 4 to 8 hours of hiking a day. It's a 7-day hike. And it's the altitude change.
Yeah, no doubt. The altitude change will get you. What's the wildlife situation like?
I've heard it's nothing crazy. Like we're going to see monkeys and
That's so cool.
things like that. But what's cool is there's 7 climate zones in the world. And on Kilimanjaro, you're going to climb through 5 of them.
Oh my gosh. That's wow. How long of a hike is that going to be?
7 days.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm raising money for charity.
Yeah.
It's called Team Friendship. I pledged to raise $8,500.
Okay. That's incredible.
Yeah.
When are you doing this?
It's this summer.
Okay. It's exciting.
So part of what I'm doing for training, how I'm going about it, how I'm breaking it down is strength training, cardio, and yoga.
Very cool.
And my cardio is a combination of like rucking, hiking, and running.
Yeah. Wow.
And then strength training is what I've always done at the gym, just keeping that up.
Yeah.
And then yoga, I'm trying to incorporate that daily.
Yeah, I want to get back into yoga.
Yeah. Even at home yoga, I'm like, you know what? I think my problem is that I just have these huge goals where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it for like an hour every day. It's going to be great. And then if I can't do an hour, I'm like, well, I guess I can't get done. Versus like I should just do like a 5-minute home workout if I don't have time. So this way, at least I'm being consistent, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. I do that. I have a mat that I put out at home. And if I'm having a busy day, I'll just do some push-ups and some crunches just to get, things moving a little bit.
Blood flowing.
Yeah.
You know what I would love to talk about,
Let's do it.
Speaking of, is I think it's so cool how you are kind of like me, but on steroids, where you took like this love that you had for music And then you were like, I want to share this with the world, especially because you were so ingrained in the scene of music in St. Louis, but you're like, the dots aren't connecting. So can you
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit more about that and how you started your own radio show with it and
Oh, cool.
that whole
Yeah, we should
process?
talk about
Yeah, we should.
that.
It's so cool.
I love this city, and it's such an interesting place because it was one of the largest cities in America. At the turn of the last century, I guess.
Really?
Hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, back when we had I mean, it was a big river town, obviously, and that's before the trains. That's really how a lot of things were transported through
Mm-hmm.
down the Mississippi. And the confluence, which is where I was born and raised, where the Missouri meets the Mississippi and then does it again. That was a big part of what made this such a large town, and that was the 1904 World's Fair. This we were, I think, maybe the third or the fourth largest city in America, and so it's a big city. It's a lot of area. It's spread out, and then you for various reasons you have people leaving. There's a mass exodus basically to places like Chicago.
Hmm.
You have all this space and a population that is now, I think, below 300,000 in city proper.
Yeah, it's small.
And so you add to that the fact that this was such a huge city for music. I mean, not just with Chuck Berry and rock and roll, but even stuff that's happening with modern music. And I'm sure a lot of them aren't really making it when they live in St. Louis, but they're from here, and there's just so much history here. And we didn't really do what Memphis did, which was keep these landmarks and make it a tourist attraction, do a cool bus tour, which is what I wish we would have done to preserve that history. But um, to kind of connect the dots, as you were saying, like I was in college and I was going to a lot of shows, like almost every day of the week. I wanted to go see live music, even if I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that's so
I would
cool.
go check something out. And it quickly dawned on me that like there are people that should know about each other that just don't. And as small as the music community might seem, there's still really big connections that I think just needed to be made. And then I would go to the shows, and if they were local shows, St. Louis based artists, I would see other bands on the bill at the show. I would see friends of the band. I would see people they're dating at the shows, and I was like, where is the buy-in from St. Louis? Why
Yeah.
isn't St. Louis showing up for these amazing shows? And so I wanted to just start a radio station where people could just literally press play. I'm like, how do we make it as easy as possible to
Mm-hmm.
show people what's happening in their own backyard? Just press play. Just press play and listen to it. And you can certainly do that with a Spotify playlist these days, but
Yeah, it's not the
um,
same.
it's not the same because it was very curated and in a very intentional way to bring people in from the county, to bring people that loved music that weren't necessarily going out to see the
You're
shows.
not going to meet people on your Spotify playlist,
No,
you know?
right, and also the internet radio aspect of it was just one aspect of the site. I wrote about bands. I was taking photos of bands at their shows and really just trying to support as much as I could and connect the dots. I mean, there's a lot of different kind of pockets of music. If I think of St. Louis as a music town, I think of these philanthropic families that do a lot for the music economy.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be midtown or downtown. I think of like this organic South City thing that's happening. And it's like, how do we just get all that together, And so that was sort of the mission. I think it did actually do what it came to do. I moved away to Nashville to start promoting much bigger tours.
But to pause,
Yeah.
you created your own radio show
Yeah.
online.
Oh, yeah. And then that,
Was that before Nashville?
yeah,
That's huge.
there was,
You weren't waiting for permission from some big radio to notice you or pick up your idea. You're like, I see a problem. Let's do something about it.
yes. And the timing could not have been more serendipitous because St. Louis Public Radio, they were having a meeting, and like a week after I launched the website, they were like, we want to do a show that is music focused and for St. Louis bands, and because St. Louis Public Radio used to be all music, you know,
Yeah.
and they wanted to get kind of back to that around 2013, 2014, and 2012 is when I launched the website, when I started talking to public radio, and they found the website. It led to a show with them, and it was great to get really good exposure to bands, and I think paved the way for their HD channel and some of their new programming, and a lot of their support for local bands. And we did this thing where we would actually invite people onto the show that didn't know each other yet, and they would they would talk backstage about songs they wanted to perform together and learn them on the spot. And there's
That's
just
so cool.
there is a certain lightning in a bottle magic to the first time that
What do they
people
call that? Synergy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That must have been so cool to witness that.
oh my gosh, there was one where we had Peter Martin, this piano player, and Kim Massey, this incredible vocalist from Ohio, from the Cleveland area, who was just winning karaoke competitions. And she came to town, and they met each other backstage and just put together this really fun set, and it was incredible. I mean, Kim had such a personality, you know.
Yeah.
She was really an incredible performer, and stuff like that. The memories from that show are just amazing. I'm still there on the weekends doing voice work, but that led to other opportunities in radio, and it led to lifelong friendships. I hope so. Um, and then yeah, then the Nashville thing came along, and it was interesting because I was in Ohio with my partner at the time, reading a book. Um, it was Jimmy Bowens, who was a record producer in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
He had tons of fascinating stories in that book. I mean, really cool stuff, really anecdotal stuff. At one time, he was recording Frank Sinatra, and it was That's Life, and
Yep.
was the thing they were going to cut that day. And that was the day that Frank had his mafioso buddies in, and I don't think it happened all the time, but that particular day, some mafia people were in the studio, and he cut That's Life, and it was very airy with the string section. And Frank came in, and Jimmy was like, you know, I think we need to like just do it again, but it was a little light. Can we add some more balls to it? But he wasn't thinking that he just told Frank that in front of his mafia buddies. So Frank goes into the room, cuts it again in like this facetious way where he's just like snarling the song. That's life. He's just being like kind of angry about it.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he's like, "How was that, Jimmy?" And then like Frank's mafia friends like lean into Jimmy, you know, and Jimmy's like, "That's great. That's good. We're gonna keep it." And that's the take that is on the record. If you listen to it, you'll be like, "Hey, Frank does sound angry in that recording." Anyways, this book had a ton of crazy stories like that.
That's so cool.
And I literally closed the book and got a call. Like the second I finished the book,
Serendipitous.
my phone started ringing, and it was my friend Amber in Nashville. And she's like, "Hey, we got this really cool position for you. I think you'd be great at it. I just kind of dropped your name in a meeting, and they want to talk to you. But I know you got a lot going on in St. Louis." And I was like, "Yeah, I do. Like it's going to be hard to walk away from this thing I was building, but I know myself, and I know that if I don't pursue this, I'm going to have a what if."
Yeah.
So having a what if is just it's one
It's
of
the
those,
worst thing.
it's the worst.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we're going to do it, and we're going to make some concessions. And I dropped the radio thing and the website just because I couldn't champion a music community while living in a different city. It just
Right.
didn't feel natural or right. And Nashville was amazing. Met a lot of great people. Just to be involved in that level of music industry is something I miss. It's, I mean, you just go down to the corner bar and you'll run into just musicians that you've loved for
That's
years.
such a great energy.
Oh my gosh, it's just
It's magic in every corner.
yeah. The industry is there. A lot of the bands live there. It's just it's a really the energy there is just it's hard to match.
Yeah. There's
Um,
something about being in an environment of like-minded souls.
Yeah, it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very special time to live there.
Yeah, because
And
even if you start to feel overwhelmed or feel like your dreams are far off,
yeah,
you're around them and you see them chasing their dreams and their energy, and then it just re-sparks it right back for
yeah.
you, you know?
Oh, and it's the
Yeah.
land of opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
there's competition like you would not believe, and it was very humbling to see players play all over the place down there and just be the most incredible players. And you're like, wow, I need to really go home and practice. And the jazz club did that to me too. I mean, some really incredible players play at Jazz St. Louis, and so I got humbled, practiced a lot, still doing that, and but Nashville was an incredible experience, one that I am glad I did. The pandemic happened, and that job was furloughed because concerts stopped happening.
Mm-hmm.
Came back home, picked up DJing, um, even though it was the pandemic. People were still getting married in their houses and stuff like that. I think I got COVID like 3 times.
Yeah, it's wild.
But yeah, it was. And then a year after that, started working for the jazz club and just try to stay in music any way I can.
Yeah. Are you
So
a creator yourself? Because I know you said you played guitar, but
yeah,
do you put stuff out into the ether?
I
Or
have not put anything out.
why not?
That's a great question.
What are you afraid of?
Not failure, the
Okay.
opposite of it.
Success.
It's kind of a lot.
Okay, so you've seen success
Hmm.
being on like the producing side of things.
Yeah.
And you're afraid of it. Why? It's a lot, but everything's a lot. Life's
It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's gonna happen. I'll put something out there. It's just there's no turning back, and it's like
I guess you enjoy the I always hate this word, anonymity.
yeah,
Yeah.
anonymity. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it. The anonymity is nice.
Are you introverted?
So I, for me,
It's a weird thing because like you like being in these big spaces.
I like to think I'm an omnivert, if that's even a thing. I think
Right.
I'm charged by a lot of interaction if it feels authentic. If it feels forced, then I'm drained.
Yeah.
If I'm in an
I mean, I think
environment,
that's everyone.
yeah.
If we're being
If
honest.
I'm feeling like I'm having to put on some sort of face, or if it's a lot of small talk, or if I'm in a stuffy situation, I will feel drained by that.
You know what? I used to not be able to do small talk.
Yeah.
But through being a barista,
Yeah.
going back to that, I've learned the power of small talk and slow beginnings.
Yeah.
Where it's like for your own protection. I'm sure you've had circumstances where you've shared too much about yourself too fast.
Oh yeah.
And then afterwards been like, even if it was like a good person,
Right.
sometimes you're like, I think that was too fast.
Mm.
And I don't really feel good about how much I just shared.
Yeah.
Like it felt a little too vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Being transparent is great,
Yeah.
but I think there's nothing wrong with like taking those slow steps.
There's not. Yeah.
And like if there's anything that being a barista has taught me where it's like I'll have certain customers who come in and like it's literally just, hey, how's your day going? Like your outfit. And they don't bite, right? They just are like, thanks, and then they move on.
Yeah.
You saw it when you were there
I
one
did see
day.
that,
You've
yeah.
seen me
I
try.
did see
Like
that.
most people don't really take the bullet. I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, because
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. It's a social experiment for
Yeah.
me. I don't take it personally. If they bite, fantastic. If not, I see hundreds of people every day. Like I'll be okay.
Right.
But yeah, I just think that like there is so much power because one day that same person who seemed rude, because there's this safe space where they can get their coffee, they know they're going to be treated warmly.
Yeah.
They just open up. Even you and I don't think we connected for a bit there. It was like we were friendly,
Right.
but it really wasn't until like you had come through a few times that one
Yeah.
day you had a little bit more time.
Right.
I had not so many people at the store.
Right.
And then we just connected.
Yeah. And then you thought I was cool enough to have on your show, which is great.
You are.
To me, like, I don't think of myself. I do think of myself as an extrovert for the most part.
Okay.
But doing something like this is the first time I've ever done like a long form podcast where it's magic of the mic takes over.
But it's been
Let's
great.
see what happens. And I'm so used to, at this point being on your side of the mic. So it's a bit of a leap, and it's been interesting, and you're an awesome host, and
Thanks.
this has been an enjoyable experience. So I'm glad I did it, and we're still talking. I'm not trying to cut it short, but
But yeah,
I just want to say, like, it's not been the most natural thing for me, and putting out music is the most naked I could ever feel. So
fair,
it will happen when it's supposed to happen, as they say.
as they say. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I guess I'm torn between that, it will happen when it's supposed to, and then the Aries in me being like, just go for it. Just do it and fail fabulously because you only learn from failure. You never learn from success.
You do learn a lot from failure. Yeah.
And like, even with this podcast, I I don't know if I told you this. I don't know if I told you guys this. Um, I started recording March of 2023, and I didn't release the first episode till August 31st
Okay.
of 2023.
Yeah.
I wanted to build up a library.
Yeah.
I only was doing an episode every other week for a long time. And I did this for a few reasons. One, I was so passionate and so proud of this project.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's totally going to go viral. I'm going to have like millions of people who are going to listen to me instantly. Yeah. Overnight. My life's going to change. And like, this is my baby. And I want to do it for me right now.
Yeah.
I did get maybe 100 people listen to the first episode, and then it kind of tapered off because like people were like, oh, what is she doing? Yeah. And then my regulars for a long time, I get like maybe 20 views per show. Now it's kind of bumped up to like 50 views.
Sure.
It's been slow and steady growth, which has been humbling for me.
Yeah.
To be like, I trust in this project. I know it will take off. It's just a matter of being consistent and getting better and growing. But like, I only learned that by putting myself out there, and being okay with
it's true
learning.
Yeah. And I've been jamming with a lot of folks. There's a lot of great jams around town, and I have a lot of music friends that are really supportive, and they're like, dude, you need to put this out.
Yeah, because I see you, like, your stories are so, we'll put all the links for his socials if that's okay. Yeah. Simply because like your stories are so fun. Like I feel like I'm always seeing your stories that you share like are in like the music studio, and there's always some different like cool group or different vibe going on.
That's okay. Back to like the internet radio thing and the shows and the job in Nashville. That has been an eye-opening experience to make that decision to promote other bands, because that took such a journey that took decades at this point. Yikes. To really like I'm so intentional with what I choose to be involved in now, because I'll be like, I have enough perspective now to be like, that is a path that could take years to conclude. And, the older I get, the more I'm like, let's be really intentional with what I want to choose to pursue.
Okay, yeah.
So,
are you talking about like the success of music and like how fast people will be, or what?
Well, for me, like the choice to just help other bands out turned into, I was successful at it. Mm-hmm. And that turned into a radio show. It turned into a nice gig in Nashville. It turned into many years of my life that took me away from my own music, but for the noble cause of helping other people promote their music. And so I went from talking on the radio locally with very new bands that didn't really have much of a story, and tried to like work with them before the show to talk about what we would talk about, have that pre-conversation, and for just promoting the largest tours in the world that needed not my help. Yeah. But I happened to be the lucky guy to do it. So knowing that just will take years if you let it, and you can. We talked about the golden handcuffs. I mean, it's a hard thing success is a hard thing to just walk away from sometimes.
For sure. So. But I mean, even though maybe at the time it may have felt like it was taking you away from working on your own stuff, you have invaluable insider information.
Yeah.
On how to succeed,
I'm
what works, what doesn't work, the connections that you have.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So it's like you have such an advantage. Like you're still going to be a beginner in a sense because it's for the first time putting yourself out there, but there's so many pitfalls that you will be able to avoid.
Yeah. It's true. Or that I'll know are coming and that I'll just have to accept. I mean, I've seen not to do too much insider baseball, but they're like these big tours when they sell out and then they'll bring in a support slot. Like these support slots will play sold out arenas around the world and get paid maybe $500 a show, and you're like, whoa, how is that happening? Well, they're not responsible for selling any tickets, right? So it's just like to see that side of the industry has been kind of mind blowing on the at that level.
But like, let's say for example, bringing up Taylor Swift,
Yeah,
Sabrina Carpenter was her opener
yeah,
for like her worldwide tour, and
and
Sabrina has
that's
been in the industry for
yeah,
years. She's not new by any
right.
means.
It's true.
She's always had a fan base, but
Yeah,
she has blown
yeah,
up
yeah, yeah.
because yeah, maybe she didn't get paid for being on tour, but it's kind of like any artist that perform at the halftime show at the Super Bowl, they don't get paid for that, but the exposure.
That is the selling point.
That's the industry term, right? That every artist probably hates to hear. Oh, think of the exposure.
At that level, it is true.
Right.
It is great exposure, especially if you have a great live show and a great voice and great songs like Sabrina. Then
You
then
just
it
needed
will
people to see you.
yeah, and right, and it does
Yeah.
work. It doesn't always work for everybody, and I always feel like people should get paid more for situations like that. But that's just stuff that I would learn anecdotally or just by seeing contracts and being like, whoa, and just always being surprised by a little bit. And there's a lot of things like that that have perhaps jaded me in terms of like the larger music industry. But I'm I'm always gonna have such a sweet spot in my heart for like this organic thing that I see in St. Louis, and I certainly saw it in Nashville and in any city that really has a music community. It's so important to come out and support it,
Yeah.
and it's really important for the people that aren't involved in it to support it, which is always the hard part. Um, and that's why I even got involved in that radio station that I started in the first place. Was I just really want people to know what is here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great that their friends show up, but I really want people down the street to be like, I want to go see live music tonight. Who's playing down the street? And just
Right.
show up. Just show up.
Right.
It's
Right.
the show me state. Let's show up.
It's true. I mean, you do have that, but then I guess the onus is also on the artist to be creative and be like, well, how do I get my stuff out there, right?
Yeah, which I could talk your ear off about. I love marketing and
Yeah.
music marketing in particular.
Like what these artists are doing on TikTok,
Yeah.
singing in their cars, doing covers
Yeah.
of famous songs.
I just had a coffee with a really cool up and coming band, husband wife duo that they're going to put out a great record, and I'm going to help them with some photos. But we just had this long conversation about social media and how it feels like it's such a chore, and it's not always just trying to appear authentic all the time in and of itself is like this paradox. And it's very draining, and it can take you away from the art, especially when we all are so busy in our normal day to days. But there is certainly a very real difference in sales and in people that show up for the people that do social media well,
Right.
and that are absent from it.
Well, the problem also is that the beginning, it's all you. You're a one-man team doing everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I feel that. I mean, with my podcast, currently, I'm the one finding guests
Yeah.
and then interviewing them beforehand and then meeting them actually in person, but then also behind the scenes, like making sure all the tech stuff is working, which it doesn't always because technology is technology.
Yeah.
When it works, fabulous. When it doesn't, you're like, I don't know the answer. I'm just the girl who bought 2 mics from Amazon hoping for the best. And then afterwards, like I'm the one editing it
Yeah.
and then putting it into small clips for socials. And then I'm doing the social media, So there's like,
Yeah.
but big podcasts, they have teams of people doing all this stuff,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, that's the dream. That sounds great. I think I'll miss it though. I think I'll miss being like involved in every
Yeah.
element of it.
Yeah. I get it. And for me, like when like you mentioned some stories that you saw, like it's more often than not, I just don't want to, if I'm picking up my guitar, I don't want to think about pressing play and recording it and making it look
like
a
for
certain
you.
way. Because then all of a sudden I'm playing to do that. I'm not
Mm.
playing for myself. And it's like, it is a lot of different hats to wear, and it becomes exhausting. And we're all sort of our own little content creators, and
Yeah.
and
Well,
so
I know this is easier said than done, but I think intention is huge,
Hmm.
right? And like your people will find you. And there's so many genres and so many artists, and there's such a need for all of them because
Hmm.
there's so many different kinds of people in the world.
Yeah.
I think instead of trying to focus on like what do the people want, because that's kind of your marketing brain, right? Over there, shutting that off and just playing what you love
Yeah.
and then posting that and not worrying about how people receive it, good or bad, or if they receive it at
That's
all.
100% right. I think worrying about what people want is such a lost cause because by the time you figure that out, they want something different.
Well, also don't forget we're in marketing. It's our job to tell them what they
Yeah,
want.
let show them what they don't know they want, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like any, I mean, the biggest artists in terms of like these iconic records and songs that have just become part of the American songbook, sometimes they really were intended to be hits from the very top, but a lot of times they were just artists being their authentic selves, and they were breaking a mold, and they weren't like getting to the chorus in the first 30 seconds. They took 3 minutes to just get wherever they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this, they broke all the rules. And that was how it made so much sense to people and it felt so authentic, is because
Mm-hmm.
it was. I mean, legitimately, it's not like it's not probably a thing to consider too much. How authentic am I being? It's just a thing that just kind of happens.
Are
It's
you happy? Maybe is the better question,
ooh, that's a good one. Let's bring it
right?
back to like just asking yourself
Because
in
what
that
is
moment.
authenticity? That gets convoluted, but it's like,
Hmm.
is what I'm creating making me happy?
Yeah, I think that is a really good way to look at it. Does it
Mm-hmm.
feel good?
Does it feel good? And art is also an expression.
Hmm.
So like it doesn't always have to be coming from a place of happiness.
Right.
But is this expressing how I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't 100% relate to it in creating music, but I did dance for years.
Yeah.
And like where words fail, music speaks.
Yeah.
That's kind of how dance was for me, where I had a hard time
Hmm.
maybe communicating how I felt when I was younger.
Yeah.
But like when I danced, that was my way of connecting with music.
Right. I love dancing.
Dancing's the best.
it's, it's a great release.
Yeah. I mean, you could do professional and make it all choreographed and gorgeous, or you can
Yeah.
just dance like you just had a stroke and you're spazzing out and it's all great, you know?
Yeah.
There's no rules. It's just are you having a good time and
Yeah.
vibing?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, dance is phenomenal. And it's funny because I actually ended up same thing where it's like I took dance, but then professionally, but then I ended up actually being a dance teacher like in high school for like
Oh,
the middle
really?
schoolers for
That's
their
cool.
plays. And I remember with dancing, with music, you approach the music is so different, right? Because you're hearing the beats, you're breaking it down, and you're thinking, how am I going to tell this story that I want to tell through what music? And that whole process is really cool.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm dancing when I'm playing guitar.
You
Sometimes,
are.
sometimes I'll dance when I play guitar.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
Just channel your inner Elvis. So this is like my worst question that I hate when people ask me, but I'm gonna ask you.
okay.
Side note, I'm just gonna say a little just story about my grandparents because I have ADD and the dogs were just barking. But my grandparents, when they first got married, they were walking down the street, also in love, and this big dog comes running down the street like barking like mad.
Ooh.
And my grandfather jumped on top of a car that was parked, and he was like, "Every man for himself."
Oh my. Right on. Just
And my grandmother
left
handled
her
it like a
stranded.
champ. She was just like, "You moron."
Wow.
Afraid of a little dog, you big strong man.
And she wore the pants forevermore.
She always did.
There we go.
But back to this. So a question that I personally hate, but I actually am still gonna ask you, which is like no fear of failure and no fear of success. What would you like the next like 10 years from now? You know, sometimes we think we're happy where we're at, but if you think about it, do you want to be where you're at in 10 years? And the answer is probably no. So, what would you like to see evolve in your life in the next like 10 years? with
Wow.
with your career. We'll narrow
Career.
it down, like with your
Okay.
career and your relationship to music.
Relationship to music and career.
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow.
If anything could happen.
Anything.
Yeah, like if you could have like your wildest dreams come true,
Oh gosh.
what would you want? Like
This
not being
is
practical, like just really living off of like your heart's desires.
oh my gosh. Making a living off of songwriting
Mm.
would be so great. And
For yourself or for other
both.
artists?
Both.
Okay.
There are things I write that I'm like, I really like this, but I don't hear it from me.
I hear that person's voice.
Yeah, and
Right.
I will literally, I'll write stuff all the time where it's like it is coming from a real place, but it's just it doesn't necessarily feel right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a stylistic thing because I feel like a good song can transcend genre. It can be dressed any way you want it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the essence of the song feels like it belongs to someone else that I haven't even met yet sometimes.
That's cool.
And so they just get stored. And I'd like to do something with that back catalog in a way. Nashville was maybe a place to try and pitch songs. It's a great place to do it. But then also releasing records. Not really paying attention to how you got to get a release out here and there for the algorithms. Just I really love the art of the record and
Mm-hmm.
how it can. I just saw this this movie Becoming Led Zeppelin in IMAX. It's such a great origin story of the band, and Jimmy Page with the Yardbirds and his connection to Atlantic really opened the door for him. And then of course there's just stage presence, but they really had this idea just to put out records and not worry about a single, and to have these folky elements flow into these rock anthems,
Mm-hmm.
and so I want to do stuff like that. I want to put stuff out that is really intentional in terms of being a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
And that's just so antithesis to what works these days, or what will work in the short term, I should say, for the
Yeah.
algorithms and the streaming and social. So
But you're not looking to create something that's going to go viral. You're looking to create something that's going to create impact.
yeah,
And
it's
there's a
gonna
difference.
like you said, your tribe,
Mhm.
your people will find it, and that's really what the next 10 years is going to look like. So
Yeah, I think about that. I mean, like I said, I'm a novice, but I am a consumer.
yeah,
And so I've thought about this before. I mean, whether it's with singers or actors, like, why is it that you have some that are like the hit of the generation, and if the generation is like for 5 years or whatever, right?
yeah,
And then all of a sudden they just pass. But then there's the greats that, like, for example, here I am. I'm 28 years old in 2025, and I'm still obsessed with like Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong. You know what I mean? Like,
that stuff's incredible.
but I'm still
Ella's
obsessed
incredible.
with it.
Oh my god.
But I'm still obsessed
Yeah.
with it. They are the greats. What makes them the greats?
Yeah,
I think it's just that soul
yeah,
doing what you love and
Yeah.
not doing it for what's done for the times.
yeah. Even though I heard Louis Armstrong really did not like "What a Wonderful World." He did not want that to be put out even, and then it became his staple that he had to perform all the time.
But you know what? As a creative, I relate to that because I feel like there's been so many times when I've given, as a graphic designer in my past life, when I've give clients like 3 or 4 examples of
Yeah.
whatever they ask,
Yeah.
and without fail, 95% of the time, they would choose the ugliest option.
Mm,
What is wrong with people?
interesting. I've experienced that in marketing for sure. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? This is what we're going with? Okay.
To the point where it's like I can't even put this in my portfolio because
Yeah.
it's my work, and you're obsessed with it,
Yeah.
yay, but like I don't feel like it's a representation of my skill set and what I'm
Yeah.
truly capable of.
Yeah.
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 But I think that's just the thing about being creative, and not everyone has the opportunity to
Yeah.
create. We all have different ways that we can be creative.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a gift because, like, even let's say if I'm painting, I'll be painting and I'll see it come out, and it's like, yeah, I put in the work, I practiced, I had so many different art teachers, I went to art school, but like to see that final result is like, it really feels like God, to be honest. Because I'm like, I don't know how this came out of me. It's a gift.
Yeah. It's probably the closest thing to God I've experienced.
Because you're being a creator,
Mm.
you know? You're
Yeah,
creating
and
something that isn't in existence and birthing it.
it's the greatest, or at least most comprehensive form of communication,
Mm-hmm.
because the English language or whatever it is, spoken word, it just, to me, it has a limit to it. Whereas melody with music, it can say so much,
So
especially when
much.
you combine the two. I mean,
Yeah.
the lyrics with a certain chord structures will just, it will get straight to the core of the matter. And it's like I just
Right.
couldn't, as great as a conversation can be, sometimes it's just, it will fall short of getting to that spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. Yeah. Music is incredibly powerful.
yeah, the 10-year question is so hard for me. I'm also, believe it or not, like a fairly private person.
Mm,
And
I
so,
believe it.
okay. And so it's hard to even put that out into the ether,
Hmm.
really, because there's almost like this, I don't know, it's not guilt, but it's almost like,
Well, now we're holding you accountable. You put it out there, and
exactly.
yeah,
And
that's why I
it's,
do it.
hmm. Okay, then you did this on purpose.
Yeah.
The Hama, I see what you did there.
Yep. I
Yeah,
like to stir the pot. I think that's just sometimes what you need from others is to
yeah,
like push you.
yeah.
I'm a pusher.
Good.
I'm a
I
10xer.
There we go.
Like, this is why I want to have like cafe. It's not that, oh, I mean, I love coffee, and like with the podcast too, it's like, yeah, this is really cool. And it's a catalyst for me to be able to sit down with people where maybe I would like not get the opportunity or want to do it. But in the end of the day, I just love people and I love hearing about their stories and their dreams and their passions. And I have a gift where I'm able to look at people and see through their bullshit and help them come up with the plan.
Hmm.
And I'm really good at helping people like break it into steps
Yeah.
and to 10x their dreams.
Oh, that's cool.
And so in this cafe that I plan on having,
Yeah.
it's called Le Cafe because I'm inspired by like the cafes that Ernest Hemingway, Ella Fitzgerald, Scott Fitzgerald used
Right.
to like. Not Ella Fitzgerald. Yeah, Ella Fitzgerald. No. Yeah.
F. Scott and Ella.
Yeah, not Ella. I'm confusing the two now. But it's Scott Fitzgerald.
If Ella had a shop, that would be the coolest thing ever.
Literally. But like a lot of artists and poets and writers and just, famous people back in the day used to frequent these cafes in Europe and in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the place for ideas and connection and creativity and partying.
Right.
And like I want to facilitate those kinds of environments because I'm really good at helping people build their dreams. And I want to create a space where either I'm inspiring them, I'm connecting them, they're naturally organically meeting people in these spaces because these are the places where people are being drawn to, right?
Yeah.
Or it's going to be such an aesthetic space that people are going to want to create, because environment is huge.
Yeah, it really
when
is.
You're a creator,
it is huge. It is really huge. Underestimated what the environment can do for the creative process.
I think as a creative, I've understood that, and I've seen how that could be a problem.
Yeah.
When it's not the case. But putting it out into the ether too. At first, I was inspired by how like a lot of cosmopolitan cities like Manhattan in Europe are really what's taking off all over and is going viral, if you will, is the concept of a coffee and a wine bar.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like a coffee shop, but it's also a wine bar at the same time. And like at 5 p.m., they'll dim the light, so it becomes like that bar setting.
I was wondering if I could get wine at 9 a.m. and coffee at 11 p.m.
You can get drinks whenever you want. You can get coffee whenever you want.
Perfect.
But the vibe is more coffee shop until 5 p.m. People are working on their laptops. It's more of that work environment.
Yeah.
And then at 5 p.m., they dim the lights. There's no laptops. And it's more about authentic connection. And they'll do events and all kinds of things. Like, it's very cool. But the thing is like, I'm not a drinker. And having this beautiful space, drunk people tend to ruin things.
Mm-hmm.
And also just technicalities like getting a liquor license is expensive, alcohol is expensive, right?
Yeah.
So then I thought through this journey, I've gotten connected to babes in business.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of people on my podcast too who are on their sobriety journey. And we talked a little bit about that earlier on.
Yeah, I keep dabbling and then falling back into imbibing, but we'll see.
Okay. But I'm thinking about creating, because I wanted this to be a space where like you're not into going to the bars, but you
Hmm.
don't want to stay home and have no life. You want to meet like-minded people,
Yeah,
but sometimes as an adult, it's kind of hard. And you're not wanting to do it with the people at work, you're wanting to find your own people, right? And so I was like, let me create this space where people can meet and there can be intellectual and stimulating conversations where people talk about their passions.
yeah,
But I'm like, what if I did a mocktail bar?
I love that.
So there's no alcohol,
Right,
but it's alcohol-esque.
right.
And it's like, it's just a great space.
I would love that. I would love to talk to you more about that because I have thought about that myself,
Oh, cool.
like an actual music venue, a sober music venue. Actually, I had a few ideas about that, but just like a rock venue with mocktails, like rocktails.
Well, that's the other thing because like there's a particular cafe and wine bar that I'm inspired by, and I've been watching them and I've been watching them grow. And I actually flew out there for a day to meet with the owner and see the space in person
Yeah,
because I found them on Instagram first. And the thing that I've noticed about them is they'll rent their store for events,
yeah,
like close it for the day. So in general, it could be open
that's
for the
cool.
public, but let's say, for example, there's like an event you wanted to host,
Right.
you can do it there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have my podcast studio in there,
yeah.
all the things.
I know. I can't wait for Le Cafe.
Everybody can't wait. We just need investors.
The beans are really good, folks. That's what really matters.
Yeah, we have K cups now. That's
Oh,
a
really?
new one. Yeah.
Now, if I could find a K cup that I like, I might actually not do a
Well,
pour over every morning.
you can buy Le Cafe K cups now for $6 for a starter pack. So it comes with 4 K cups. There's 1 light roast, 2 medium roasts, and 1 dark roast.
Can I ask you a question? A coffee
Yeah.
related question?
Yeah.
I've learned a coffee related fact that blew my mind.
Oh, okay.
Is a light roast more caffeinated? Because I heard that it was, and I was like, wait, that goes against logic.
Mm-hmm.
But also, why is the roast? First of all, let's back up.
Mm-hmm.
Is a light roast? Does that just mean that you haven't roasted it as much as a dark roast?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not roasting out the caffeine, perhaps?
So would you like to hear the whole story?
Yes. Drop the science on me.
Okay, well, here's the concept. It's a berry first.
Yeah.
And you roast it. And in this roaster, you can like sometimes some of them have like the windows you can see the coffee beans rotating, right? It's almost like a popcorn machine. And at this certain temperature, and now it's gonna vary because each bean is a little different depending on the region where it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's where the different nuances of the taste and the notes come from.
Right.
And then how long it's roasted for, you'll hear that first crack. That first crack makes it a edible coffee bean,
Ooh,
and that's the light roast.
I love that.
The second, now you do it for a little bit longer, that second crack is going to be the dark roast. In between that first crack and that second crack is that perfect balance to find a medium roast. So for example, the roaster that I use locally in St. Louis, First Crack, they host, is that the right word? They provide the coffee beans to a lot of local cafes in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, they only have so many coffee beans to offer. What's the differentiation between each cafe, right? Is every coffee shop going to taste the same? Now, what makes it special? Well, we know, first of all, environment, the owner, how they're branding, all these things, what kind of syrups they use, all this plays into it.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, it's almost like a curated recipe that you make specially for each brand.
Yeah.
So like what was so fun for me was I started off as an instant coffee drinker. I was by no means a connoisseur. Gas station coffee was just fine for me. You add enough sugar and cream to something, it's fine, you know? My grandfather used to joke and say, "Do you want some coffee with that sugar?"
Yeah, right.
But you know, I've learned to have an appreciation for it because the owner of Omen Coffee, I really started going there, and he's been very open about his process. He's the one who even told me about his roaster, which was so cool of him.
That is cool.
And I took a roasting course there, and then I learned, and together, me and their manager rep, Josh, he helped me curate and craft the experience that I wanted every person to have with each roast.
Yeah. Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
Um,
So to answer your caffeine question, there's so many variables that go into how much caffeine you have. So for
mm,
example, drip coffee versus espresso, there's actually more caffeine in like a drip coffee than there is in espresso.
yeah. I when I do a pour over,
Mm-hmm.
I'll bloom it, of course.
Yeah.
So grind the beans, put it in there, bloom it. Mean put the hot water on there and let it sit.
Yeah.
To get I think the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Mm-hmm.
think the idea is to just let all that bitterness evaporate out of those beans, so you're not tasting it.
Kind of. There's different brewing methods, and I will say a pour over, especially with the Chemex, which I love. I personally feel a lot of people like the V60 better. I like the Chemex personally.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too.
Having a glass craft is really important as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many variables. Honestly, like I'm still barely brushing the surface. There's people who are way smarter than me who know about this,
Yeah,
but it's intriguing to me and it's such a science.
yeah,
But it releases the natural gases.
right.
So that's the bitterness, I guess, if you will,
Yeah.
that's leaving. But also that blooming process is the first part of it. But then just how slowly you're doing it. Like
Mm,
the truth is, if you want anything good in life, it takes time,
there we go.
right? And so like, but again, from like a business perspective, we have two different types of coffee drinkers. We have those who really truly appreciate and will wake up early and spend the extra time to do a pour over, to do their espresso
Yeah.
drink in the morning. And then we have those who are like, listen, as much as I appreciate that, that's really complicated. I don't have time. I want coffee, but like, hence the K cups. I was like,
Mhm.
why should people who need efficiency not have an opportunity to
I
have an
love it.
excellent cup of coffee?
There we go. I'm sold.
So,
If you were on Shark Tank right now, I would cut you the fattest check
oh,
because I need a good K cup in my life.
it's
The reason why I
it's
don't
$6,
do it,
guys. It's so cheap
I per cup
for 4 cups.
for 4 cups.
So
That's not bad.
basically,
Yeah.
you're basically to break down the cost. Personally, if you're trying to do the math for yourself, you're like, how much am I paying?
Yeah.
You are paying $1.50 for a great cup of coffee. That is freshly roasted. If you're local to St. Louis, it's locally roasted here in St. Louis. And 10% of all of our proceeds go to a different charity each month. We call it our Sip with Purpose program.
There we go. I love that.
And I'm not taking any money from Lake Cafe right now. Like everything we make, I'm just reinvesting back into the business because my whole goal is to be able to have a space.
Right. That's cool. I think that's what any successful entrepreneurial upstart does, is invest
Yeah.
back into their business. But yeah, the reason why I do the pour over is because it's just the best tasting cup that I can get. I'll do
Mhm.
first of all, I'll pour out that bloom stuff, which I've just started doing, because that's for like that first pour is so better.
Yeah.
I'll rinse that down the drain, and then I'll start from the top with a very slow pour with my coffee gator, and then I will have a black cup, and then I'll put in creamer and like some cardamom for my second cup.
Mm,
It's the best
yeah.
because I gotta have that like initial shot of caffeine.
Right. Just pure.
Yeah,
Totally.
and then it's for the flavor and the sweetness.
Another fun drink, if you like just black pure coffee,
I'd love it.
an Americano,
Yeah.
but a twist. This is actually called a long black. It's how Australians make it.
Okay.
And there is a difference. Some cafes here in America, the baristas do it this way and they don't realize that they're doing it this way, but here's the science. So an Americano is when you put the 2 shots first and then you add the hot water on top.
Okay.
And what that experience does is it takes the espresso flavor, and when the hot water is added, it just blends it to this perfect blend all the way through. But just like everything with Australia, it's down under, it's all flipped, right? So with the long black, what that means is first they do the hot water,
yeah,
and then they do the shots on top without mixing it. And what that experience does is you still have the crema and the frothiness of the shot.
yeah,
And so when you drink it first, it's
Yeah.
strong, it's very potent. And
There we
then
go.
as you drink it, it starts to get more
Oh, that's cool.
less and diluted. So it's like
Yeah.
a flavored journey.
I love that.
And you almost have that frothiness of a latte.
Mm.
but it's not. It's an Americano and there's no dairy, there's no sugar, but it's a long black.
Wow. I did not know this would turn into such a coffee conversation.
Sorry, that's what happens. It's hard for me to stop once you get me
No,
going.
I mean, same. I love coffee.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little sneak preview that's not for the public yet, but I'll tell you when we're done with the show.
Okay.
But this has been so great. I feel like we have a really good banter. We could probably go on for hours.
I know that we could.
But we've already probably
For
gone
the
way
sake
past the
of
time that I normally do. I've already
the
flipped
viewer.
the timer like 3 times.
Yeah.
But this has been so great. We've learned so much about you and about music and about your passions and your dreams.
Yeah.
So first, my question is, what can my audience do to support you?
Wow. I think it's a really good question. I would send me some good music recommendations.
Okay.
For me, like my drug is finding new to me music. I need to do it all the time.
Yeah.
I've been that way for as long as I can remember.
Why don't you do those little polls on Instagram on your stories? Like you should do it weekly. Be like, send me your favorite songs you're listening to right now.
That's a great idea.
You should do that.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. You could do it daily, but you could even do like once a week if you wanted to start out slow.
Yeah.
I told you I'm a 10Xer.
Okay. The other thing I would say is go see some live music. And it's not even to support me, it's just to support the economy and
especially if you're here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But even if you're listening anywhere else in the world, wherever you are.
Yeah, especially if you're someone who hasn't like seen a whole lot of live music.
I guess that's me.
Go see some more live music.
It's true.
Yeah.
I do. I'm learning. I'm trying to, this entrepreneur journey, I'm trying to learn how to find a balance between having a life and working on creating the life that I want. And it's not so simple.
Yeah, no, never is. It's a big undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
It takes so long. But yeah, that would be, send me some good music recs and go see some live music would be what I say.
And so is your Instagram, like, should they DM you? Is that the best place or?
Yeah, DM, it's Nick Avel.
Okay. And we'll have that in the link so you guys can check it out.
Avel.
Yes.
Yeah. And
then I have this tradition. At the end of every podcast episode, this whole podcast is based on this Hebrew quote, which is Eze hu chacham halamed mikol adam, which means one who is wise is one who learns from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
But if you can leave us with one last little bit of wisdom, either your favorite quote or just a life lesson.
Okay. I don't want you to feel too flattered.
Okay.
But the quote is one from you.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
And this has been a long time coming, this exact conversation that you've had to reschedule, I've had to reschedule. And what you said about it is something that I've been telling myself for a while since you said it, and it's helped in more ways than one, and it happens when it's supposed to. And that's been we were talking earlier about the balance between wanting to make things happen and just letting it happen. And I think the thought of that is comforting, but it's helpful in accepting that things do take time. They do. Like a good cup of coffee. Good things take time. You can't rush it. Right. Unless you have a K-cup. Oh no. But I will. Ruthless. You just can't stop hawking the K-cup. Listen, I don't have the luxury to not promote my product. There we go. But I will say, I always, whenever I hear my guest quote, I always think of another quote because I always get so inspired. Yeah. And my best friend Marissa, shout out to you. It was her baby shower today, which is thank you for letting us push it off as many times as we did. That. But she told me a quote to build off of what your quote was, which is, "You're never late for your own life." Oh, wow. Which really builds on that as well. Because I think sometimes we get into the comparison mode, right? And we look at other successful people and how fast or slow it took them. And it's your journey. You're a unique soul. Your circumstances are unique. The opportunities that are meant for you are unique. Yeah. But like adding on to the spirituality of things, like the fulfillment comes before the desire. You wouldn't have a desire for something if it wasn't already
written in the ether that it was meant to be yours.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when is that right time. And learning to let go is the hardest part.
Yeah.
But at the same time, moving forward in terms of putting that energy out into the world where I'm like, I'm showing up, but I'm also having certainty beyond logic because it maybe doesn't seem like it's going to happen right now.
Yeah.
But if I have this strong of a passion and desire, it's because I am meant to make this be a thing.
Yeah.
And I'll add on one more thing because I can't stop once I get started. That like, I'm such a lover of birthdays.
Same.
And oh, really? You're like one of the first people I've met in a long time who love birthdays.
Birthdays are a big deal.
They are a big deal.
Yeah.
Fun fact about why they're a big deal to me. In Judaism, we believe that the day that you came into this world is that God and the world felt that it could no longer exist without your existence.
Heavy.
And so every day that you wake up in the morning, it's because you still matter and you have a purpose.
Yeah.
And every time that it's your birthday, that is your annual yearly celebration of that you are here for a reason and you matter. So don't give up.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good moments to show thanks and appreciation for people important to you and special to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that don't want to celebrate their birthday, and I'm just like, what? No, we gotta do something.
Something.
You gotta at least put a cone in your paw. You gotta do something.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Special.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, it's totally normal to feel like you don't know what you're doing and to feel like nothing's working out. It's part of the process.
Yeah. If
you haven't cried on your bathroom floor at least once, you might one day. And if you do, it's okay. I've been there. You just get up and wash your face. You'll be fine. But yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you would like to share that you didn't get a chance to share?
Wow. Not really. I feel like this was extremely comprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much we could still talk about.
For sure.
But anything that I feel like I need to share, not really. Good. I appreciate anyone that took the time to listen. I know these long form podcasts can be a journey. This was fun for me. It really was, because the magic of the mic is so real, and not knowing where it's going to go is half the fun. I don't know where it's going to go either. And I'm the host. That's just my chaotic energy. Yeah. So listen to some music, go see some music, do something good for yourself, be patient, enjoy coffee. Le cafe. Le cafe. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. And if you're not already watching, the video is on YouTube and Spotify. And if you're not already following What Are You Doing With Your Life, please go follow. And as always, if you found any part of this meaningful, please share it with a friend who you think would be uplifted by it. And I hope you guys have a great week. Let's get it. Let's go.